Hey guys, what's going on? I got a pretty cool video lined up for you guys today. I can't wait to get into it. Hey guys, welcome back. It's a pretty nice day out. I thought I would kind of show a few things outside and talk to you about trap pan covers, different materials that you cover your traps with. Also talking about maybe tagging your anchors, and then also how to take them out of the ground. So whether that be with like a crowbar or one of those pullers, or using an auger to drill them out. So, you know, just to kind of kick it off, I was going to pretty much just go into the different trap pan covers that you can use, whether that be screen, whether that be in wax paper, whether that be in underalls, whether that you're not using a pan cover at all, because you have either using a pit pan, or maybe you're using one of the enlarged pan systems. But the screen pan covers, it comes in steel screen, the hard steel screen, and then the aluminum screen, and then like a mesh screen. And I would say that if you were going to use one, that you would want to use the steel screen, the hardest stuff that you can get, and then you're going to want to figure out a system on how to get that to go into your trap. So, with it being a dog or dogless, what's the system that you're going to use, and then kind of practice that and get pretty proficient with it, and then kind of go from there and just keep doing it the same way every time. But me, I don't use underalls. I don't use a pan cover. I have these pit pans that I like to use, and I just use peat moss, and the peat moss kind of is what I would say is my pan cover. So I dig my trap bed, put my trap in the ground, and then cover it with peat moss, and then I usually cover it with the top coating of either dirt from the set or dirt that I dig up and work up in the summer, or maybe some barn dirt that I've dug up. But I don't ever usually just leave bare peat moss unless I'm in a pinch. Now I will say I have used this bare peat moss and put a skiff of snow over top of it, but I typically like to have a showy set, and if I can, I want dirt showing, not snow, unless it's a blended flat set by one of my showy sets. But so with that being said, there's a lot of different ways that you can cover your trap pan. There's a lot of different ways that you can, or a lot of different types of material that you can use to bed your trap in, whether that be in dirt, peat moss, wax dirt, buckwheat hulls, anything like that. I've also seen people use coal shale and ground up manure or sand, all kinds of different things that you can use. I guess it's just whatever you think is going to be fitting into your system the best. So my system is I just use peat moss and dirt, and it's usually dirt that I make up in the summer, and I don't use a pan cover. So that's pretty simple. It's pretty basic stuff. And I will also say, whenever you're going to anchor your trap in the ground, and say you're doing some pre-setting, or maybe you're setting up a place during the trapping season, but you're pulling and you want to come back and set it up maybe a month later. Thing that I've found that works really well for me is to just leave my anchor in the ground and kind of mark it a particular way. And there's multiple ways you can do it, with like a flagging, collared flagging, and zip ties, bread bag ties, string, or even using your cell phone and marking it on your app. But then that doesn't technically pinpoint where it just kind of gives you a general idea of where your set is. So I usually just remember where mine are. I've never really tagged any of mine with any, but I will show you a few ways that you can, if that's something that you might want to get into, or to maybe implement into your system of trapping, or your style of trapping. So after you get it put in the ground, you're going to have to figure out a way to get it out. And you know, if it's just a disposable, like on a cable, you can just take some side cuts like these, cut them out. Or if it's on chain, there's the retrievable ends that you can get. So that just seems very monotonous and a lot of extra stuff that you got to do. Although I'm sure it works for a lot of people, it just doesn't seem like it would be something I would be interested in doing with a bunch of cable. And although I guess that once you get it hooked up once, you could probably just run it like that time and time again. I just don't like the thought of having a extra piece of cable sticking up in my trap bed. So there's that way that you could retrieve your anchor. And then there are the other ways, you know, getting a pooler and using a pooler with a base. There's also the use of a crowbar. You can use a crowbar and maybe have a 2x4 or a 4x4 piece of wood that you use as your base, and then you pry it up with the chain out of that. Well, a few things I will say: if your J hooks aren't welded where the anchor is, which mine aren't, because I like to be able to pop mine open and take them and just leave the anchor. I will say, be mindful whenever you're pulling on those that you don't open up one of your J hooks. So I also wanted to show you, just a couple ways that you can kind of tag your chain. This is just a simple zip tie. Say your anchor's in the ground and you take this J hook off. All you'd have to do is put this zip tie through, tag it up, tighten it up, and that would mark your. Or you could take something like this, although I would say maybe black's not your preferable method for demonstration purposes. You just take something like this, run it through, do a quick square knot or hitch knot, and go on your way. Leave it lying. And if it's collared, it would be easy for you to be able to see it, and then you know right where to put your trap back on. So you just hook your trap back up and set it, bait the hole, cover your trap, down the road you go. So those are just a few things that you can kind of do to maybe make your setting more efficient. There is the debate on whether or not that it actually does speed up any of your setting, whether or not you could just go out and put the sets in and go, or if you go out and preset and dig your trap bed, dig your hole, put your anchor in the ground, maybe cover it up with something, and then whenever you're coming back to set up one season, you just hook your trap up, cover it up, bait it down the road. So I guess there's two different groups on how they operate and what they use. I'm more of the latter. I like to preset and get as much stuff as I can get out. That way I can maybe get 60, 70, maybe 80, 90 sets out in one day. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of go out and I'm going to dig a few kind of mock sets and just go over my bedding, and then I'll show you the tagging stuff, and we'll just kind of see how it goes, okay? So So I like to have a big showy set. It's a big trench step down dirt hole. It's more of a decline down. It's not like a step down. It's more like a kind of like a runway strip is what I describe it as. But to show you guys that the staking system with this stake driver, I just push it down in. And then I kind of want it to be V'd in, so all my points sit up, and then that be a low spot. So all I do is take this excess chain that I know is going to be sitting up, I beat it in, and then just set the trap. So now that I have the trap set, I don't really go off of whether it's 9 inches back, 3 to the side, 4 to the right, diagonally. I just go straight back from the hole. I gauge it, give or take. I used to go like this from the lip of the hole, and that's where I wanted the end of my pan to be at. But I've done this quite a few times now that I just kind of have the system down. It's just what I do every time. So after that, there's no pan cover that goes on. I use some dirt and I use some peat moss. And it's just dried peat moss that's been sitting in my barn. I don't sift it. If I find something, I just throw it out. I don't use a broom. I kind of find that amateurish or childish. But if you don't trust your traps, I guess you shouldn't be trapping. But, you know, you do what you want to do. So that's all I do. Beat this ground down. Take one guiding right in there, right on my loose dog. Up here by the lever. Right there, so you don't want to step there. Right up there. And that's how I cover my setup. And then it's just bait down the hole, squirt of urine down the hole, and I'm on to the next set. So about one of these will do a good large set. So really half of one of those bottles will do a pretty good set. So you don't have to go crazy with it. But that's, you know, that's my finished set. I want it to be big. And the way I go down on that backing, I don't really ever worry about having a backing back behind me. I don't need a big tall thing of grass or a corn stalk or a rock or whatever, just a regular hole. So it's pretty simple. I'll just show you guys how I just hook that up. And out she comes. Pretty simple. And then I just knock the dirt out that kind of obtains as it's coming up. So, but if I was going to come back to this set, I'm going to leave that anchor down and then I'm going to tag it, and I can show you guys how to do that in a minute. Okay, so like another set I make is typically a flat set, and that can be using anything like a rock backing, a T-bone, a pipe, a grass clump, just something with a punch hole in it, thing of scat. So it can be very versatile in the way you use it, but I set it up the same way I set up every other one. I don't really make P-posts. If I do, it's a grass clump and the attractants at the very bottom. So, and that maybe is when I start using like a gland lure, if I were to use one. And that gland lure will go into the base of the grass clod. So, same thing. If it's in there, great. Spins great. I just kind of push it down, and then I start it with one. There's no mushrooming, there's no destroying. And then it's just set the trap. So you got to see where it's going to be set at. That's fine. And always beat this down just so it's a bowl. And that's good. That's pretty good and solid. It's not going anywhere. And if you think you're too close to your attractant, I mean, you can always back it up or figure it out the way you want to figure it out. And then again, it's just peat moss. Peat moss over top. I think that's all I got. So peat moss over top. And then if I'm doing just a blended flat set, it's just yard clippings that I have. So. And I kind of just feather it out a little bit. Whatever I grab. If I grab a little bit too much, I'll just feather it out. I'm not throwing it back in there. And then I just kind of want to pat it down. And that's the set. You can either make a punch hole here or smear some bait up underneath there. Make sure you're squirting the urine, or if you're using a call lure, gland lure, you know, put it down here. You don't really need to put it up top. Some people do. Some people will smear it up on the rock. I want them to be focused on one point. I don't want them to be focused all over the place. So, now, say I was wanting to set this up in like a month or so. Say I'm setting it up in November and I want to come back in January, and I have plenty of traps to do that, so I could just leave this here. So I'm just going to take these, put it under the J hook there, pry it open. I'm taking my trap and I'm going. And what I was telling you earlier is you can take this and say it's a green or, I don't know, orange. You take that, you loop it through, and you tag your, so that should be sitting up and you could see it. And
or you can take that orange flagging tape and tie it, but you know, then you kind of have to worry about everybody seeing it instead of just you, and maybe you know where it's at. Or you can take you know, some string, some colored string, and do that. But that's all I do. And then there's another way that I was going to kind of show you guys on how to take these out. And I'm not a big fan of this way, so bear with me, but I'll try and show you the best I can. So you want a base, right? Something that you can pry on. You want to get your link so you can hook it in there. And then you're just pretty much tilting back and prying. So say you don't got enough money to, you know, afford a puller, or you're just starting out and you don't really know if you want to get into trapping, but you've got all this stuff, and this could be a cheap little easy method, you know, a piece of wood and a crowbar. I'm sure everybody has a crowbar, but it takes a minute, and I'm sure the more you did it, the faster you'd get, but I don't really use this method. So, and then you got your stake and your plug out, and you can go on down the road. A little bonus that I was kind of wanting to give out, I guess, or tell people if they didn't know. I'm sure a lot of people do, but say this ground was frozen solid and you was having an issue getting in and maybe digging a hole, and you're not wanting to do a flat set. Well, that's a fine tool, and all you have to do, in one of my videos I was talking about it previously, you just kind of hit it as hard as you can in there, and you've got yourself a nice little hole. And say you just had to have that rock there, well, there you go. You got yourself a nice little slotted hole. I know Todd from the TRAPLINE, he likes a slotted hole, but you know, that's just something you could do, and it could maybe save your back and save your shoulders whenever you're out and you're trying to just hammer in a dirt hole, or you're using your auger, or you're using your trowel, or you're taking your driver and trying to make a punch hole with you know, using your mallet. So just a little tip I thought I'd throw out there. Really appreciate you guys watching, and I'm sure I'll be on shortly. Take care, fellas.